Good morning, all of you, and we welcome all of you to this session on identity, identity management, and biometric security by Sri Ashok Bandyopadhyay, sir. So let me just give you a brief introduction about Ashok Bandyopadhyay, sir. And Ashok Bandyopadhyay, sir, is an associate director, uh, ICT and S Group, CDEC, Kolkata. And sir has completed, sir has done his MTech and BTech in radio physics and electronics from the Institute of Radio Physics and Electronics and University of Kolkata. And sir has more than 27 plus years of experience in the R&D activities in the field of microprocessor, microcontroller based industrial system development. And sir, sir has also experience in the digital signal processing based control system development and speech processing, embedded systems, and a reconfigurable software radio, pattern recognition, handwriting recognition, soft computing, perception engineering, signature verification, and infrared imaging, etc. And sir has also had experience in the LED, uh, lead several projects from the center of CDEC Kolkata, and he's also published more than 30 plus national and international papers and journals and articles, and he's also coordinator at ICTS training, acts training course of CDEC Kolkata for the last 4 plus years. And sir has executed most of the projects from the mighty sponsored projects, leading as a chief investigator and co-chief investigator for the national importance programs of perception engineering phase 1 and 2, and development of the online signature verification system. Like whatever we are today using the online signature verification system, it was developed under his guidance, and sir has taken a key role in it. And he's also played a key role in human body energy management system and handwriting behavior analysis, development of infrared based diabetic screening system, IR based cancer detection system for northeast states, etc. And is also coordinating the activities of security education phase 2 of mighty Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and working as a domain expert for cyber security trainings for last 2 years, and coordinating the activities of cyber security audit services of Jharkhand state and Bihar state. And sir has also played a very key role, Center for Emergency Response System in Jharkhand for establishing the state level set infrastructure in the cyber security domain, and is also working as a co-investigator in Bihar DIG5 development of CDEC Digital Forensic Center with artificial intelligence based knowledge support tools, which is again might supported project. Sir is involved in national level implementation projects in the domain of cyber security, research and development, capacity building, yeah, capacity and capability building, and handling the cyber security related matters such as coordination and national security agencies, and overseeing the implementation of related projects involved in the cyber security and cyber forensics projects in biometric security for the more than 12 years. As a co-chief investigator handling 2 large cyber security forensics projects, which are, as I mentioned, Center for Emergency Response System project and artificial intelligence based digital forensics projects in Patna and Jharkhand respectively, for police and other law enforcement agencies for the states of Jharkhand and Bihar. And he's also, sir, as a trainer in cyber security and cyber forensics more than for 5 years, and he is in charge for mini data centers with the security view of CDEC, more northeast cyber forensics projects, the project on smart device forensics. So this is the brief about sir. We are to have your session. So to kindly share your kindly share all your experiences with us. Thank you with us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jagadish, for giving a detailed background of myself. Anyway, I will try my level best to just do whatever is currently. We can just go ahead. Today's topic, is identity management and biometric security. This is one of the key area where we are working, and we are working jointly with SIDAC Mumbai as well and Hyderabad Center. So there are a lot of activities going on in this area. So I thought that we can just have some sort of discussions on this. Let me just start sharing the contents, whatever currently we would like to present. Just a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I think this is it coming?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is coming, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, make it full screen, sir, so that.
Yeah, I'll just make it full screen. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is it moving? Is it
Yes,
changing the
yes,
slides?
yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes, sir. Yes, it is
Fine.
changing. Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay. So, without going further into that, let us straight away go to the today's discussion on identity management and biometric security. So, first, I will just briefly talk about something on identity management. So, the agenda could be identity. What is that basically? What is the identity management and identity management models? That we will just discuss some of the issues on that. And authentication and authorization, then challenges of identity management adoptions and benefits of identity management, and then some conclusion. This is the part of the identity management, but today we have two broad topics. One is first is the identity management system, and the second one is biometric security. I will talk a little bit more detail on the biometric security part as well, which will come with the second half of this particular discussion. So now, just to start with that, what basically is identity management? It is an enterprise, what we know as a combination of process and technologies, where we see that we require to manage and secure the access of information. As we know that information is the most important part of these days digital domain, and handling those information with proper secure accessibility, that is a challenge. And for that, what kind of resources for an organization protecting its user profile, customer profile, and all that, that one has to take care of. Into that, that's why this identity management becomes an important topic. It includes the entire process of deciding who should have an access to the resources and to what resources, providing, changing, and terminating such access when it is approved, managing the process and monitoring it for compliance with internal and external policies. So each and every organization has got certain policies. So they need to have comply with their internal policies. And obviously, when the enterprise sector is interacting with the outside agencies, they have to also look into the other organizations' policies. So external policy also has to match accordingly. Now you see that it has two principal components of the management. It is the of the identity management of this identity. Management of this identity is the process of issuing and using digital identities and credentials such as username and password. That is the basic first part of it. So when we go for important aspects to handle, we see that how this particular two things, that is, one is your username and the other one is the password, that how you are using for authentication. Management by the identity combines the proven identity of the user with their authorization in order to grant access to resources. So definitely people has to provide the authorization. Now we see that in terms of life cycle maintenance of electronic accounts, there are issues what normally we face where the identity is to be properly managed. Now, the other parts of it is that the provisioning. So under that provisioning part, what we see is the first you have to create certain account, then you have to update accordingly. And the role maintenance, I think Somebody is saying that I'm not audible. Is it so?
No. You are audible, sir. Please continue, sir. You are audible, sir. Not an issue.
Oh, okay. Account removal is another one. Like yeah, there is a possibility, like you have to remove also under certain conditions. So for example, one employee has retired. So then what you have to do, you have to remove his account, because in future there should not be any such communication from your organization through this maybe say email or a particular account, whatever has been created when he or she was in your organization. So that process also has to be there. You have to keep provisions for both creation and removal. Then you have to see that the finally you have to have the authentication and authorization. Once you are through with that, so you are going through the access control mechanism. So you provide the access to that particular user. You see that this is the basic cycle of identity and access management. First is your password management. Then you have certain user provisioning, certain things what I have already mentioned, and you have some directories, where you have to which one you have to keep it in which directory, that you have to properly design. You should have some mechanism for auditing and reporting, as for example, like any organization, any software development organization, if they have got certain websites has been developed, then you need to have audit for the websites as well. So what we call security auditing, that is one part. And normally in case of financial auditing, as we have seen that each and every organization has got their own procedure for that kind of auditing, and there is some centralized organization CAG audits and all that is also there. So similarly, in the domain of digital domain of activity, you need to have audit for your this kind of activities as well. And obviously audits should be followed by some reporting. Here you see that once you have got certain kind of user provisioning, you authorize the system, and then you need to divide and as per the hierarchy of the organization, you have to manage the role of each person. So that is what is coming under the role management. So as a whole, you can see this is what is IAM, that is Identity and Access Management System, talks about. Now, a little bit more detail if we go on for the modeling, basically the management model part. There, first part is your user provisioning. As I have already briefed, something already have come across, is the employee's login credentials. So you have certain proper access rights, you will provide that, and that will be granted by the process called the user provisioning. This account would be maintained and updated whenever new privileges are assigned to this employee. The employee's data or passwords would be synchronized among different IT systems and platforms. Then comes your user deprovision. Employees' login credentials can be deleted across all systems due to, say, termination, as already I mentioned, termination of the employment or retirement, which this removal of access rights is a process called user deprovisioning. Then comes your another important aspect called isolated identity management. So there are now the model talks about two important things. One is your isolated identity management technique. Another is your federated identity management. So for isolated identity management, you have the model which requires that each user possesses an identity identification, identification ID or something like that, to access to each isolated service. So each and every isolated service has to have that kind of identity management procedure built in. Federated identity management, a customer of one particular service provider would access to all the services provided by another service provider in the group with only a single identifier. So then only you can have a proper, security aspects maintained. For such are standardized methods of information exchange within the group to work, implementation of a common technology standard, such as organization for the advancement of structured information standards, security assertion markup language, and what is called is SAML. And then comes your centralized identity management system. So for the centralized system here in this model, what we call is the CA, that is certificate authentication. So this model, the same identifier and the credential are used for each of the service provider. A kind of example may be having some kind of PKI, like that what you know in terms of cryptography, that keys are there, public interface and all that. So where certificate of authorizing agencies, that is that CAs, they issue the certificate to the user. Each user can then have some same certificate to access the different services. So all of them has got something to authenticate the client through the same certificate before granting access to their services. Once that is done, then only the service can be provided. So we can have some another example, like where we can have single sign-on model, what we call SSO, which requires the user to log in once and be authenticated automatically by all other service providers. For example, Kerberos, that authentication server and the Microsoft .NET Passport, etc. They are the examples of SSO implementation. But anyway, this has got certain drawback, obviously. What is that? Basically, one should be trusted identified providers. Otherwise, you see, it will fail under say kind of a certain cyber threats. What we call, maybe one example is DOS attack, the denial of service attacks. So the normal service of all the service providers in that case may be affected if you go for this kind of single sign-on model. Now, a little bit of more detail about your, that provisioning example, like you have some authoritative representative in the higher level, that is the HR system. This is an example what we have created for you to understand for a kind of university environment, where HR system is connected with the student system. Then the identity manager is playing the key role in between, so that you can have authoritative repositories and the students can get the benefit out of it. But that can only happen through certain domain controllers. What you call maybe say CAS, it may be LDAP type, it may be Active Directory. So different kinds of identity managers, that goes into the identity management section, and what the students will get the services provided by the HR units. Then you see the application services is coming, like where you have the corresponding websites. You can have through that, that the CAS system goes through that websites accessing, and you have some kind of Unix hosts which will go to the identity management, maybe through LDAP, and Windows host you can have some Active Directories in place. So these are certain provisioning examples, like what possibly we may have to look into. Now, by this few discussions, a few moments of discussions, what we have already gained, what information we have learned out of it is basically it's identity management is all about the relationships. First you have to understand that where you have to engage the people, and then cradle to grave. So let people engage, cradle to grave. This is the step. One by one, you can go for it. You have some multiple overlapping and ever-changing situations. So the relationship also should be accordingly handled. You have to embrace the multiple authoritative sources, where the authoritative for attributes, particularly here authoritative is not for the people, what we are talking about. Then comes your account names should be temporal, like where user should be free to select and change it. Those facility has to be provided to the user. Application should record account ID, and there should not be any name specific. So that is very important. Dynamic rules should be there, and you should not have kind of static roles. So role also can be dynamically changing. So depending on the organization's requirement, it may change, it may vary. So you have to keep that provisions also. If you have now we are a little bit of discussions we can go on the federations. What we said that federated modeling. So in that, what kind of federations are basically, what is that federations? It is basically the group of organizations that they share a set of agreed policies and rules for accessing to the online resources. So kind of agreed platform, you can say. So under that, a few key points could be, it has to enable the members to establish trust and shared understanding of language or terminology. That is one part. It can it will provide a structure or legal framework which will enable the authentication and authorization. So these are two key points one has to keep it in mind while going for this kind of federated structure. You have to provide the enabling features, enable the people to use their home credentials to connect to the remote sites without revealing their credentials. So that is very important. So privacy is very important here. So you have to maintain that privacy and secrecy without releasing unnecessary private information. So we can have an example for federation, which possibly what we say that scenario which could be with and without authentication and authorization. In brief, what we say AAI, authentication and authorization. Then you see that university, two universities they are talking of, University A and University B, where you have some student admin, you have some kind of mail accessing, some e-learning platforms are there for the students through which they can go for their discussions or maybe some online classes. So there, this maybe of this combinations could be like that, where anybody is connecting to anyone. So there may be a kind of situations where the proper administration, maintaining the administrative issues and authentication could be a little bit difficult. So in that case, if you have got certain kind of the single this specific keys here, you see that keys are means you are having some authentication key here itself. That is the University A and University B. So they are separately. So there is after that you have here you are having some AI, and then you go for student admin. You have some webmails, you have e-learning platforms, and all that activity can be done, but in a very organized manner and with proper authentication security. So authentication and authorization, if we talk about authentication technique makes use of one or more of the following factors. What are that? First of all, something you know. What is that? That is called something you have, like a smart card. You know that these days people are using smart cards for many places. Like we also have got smart card based identity management system for attendance and other activities of our organization throughout. And you have something you are, that is like say your fingerprint. So when we'll go towards the biometric part, we'll talk a little bit more detail on the fingerprint and other different kinds of biometric solutions. As of now, these are the factors what authentication is being guided by. Now, another very important term here comes into play. Probably many of you have already come across the word. That is what is called the two-factor authentication. Basically, two-factor authentication is generally believed to be more secure, and therefore many high-risk systems such as internet banking and etc. are now implementing schemes like this. In fact, these days even they have gone for another layer of it. Kind of additional OTPs are also being created before you can log into your system. So authentication and authorization, basically in the authorization part, the first part we have talked about the authentication. Now we are a little bit more detailing about the authorization part. This is basically a process that determines whether an entity is allowed access to a given asset or resource, and common access models for that could be, there are different role-based situations, what we will discuss here. So authorization has got kind of models like say discretionary access control, what we call DAC, mandatory access control, that is MAC, and then role-based access control, RBAC. So discretionary access control in this mechanism, which basically it owns the objects under their control, and the granting and revoking of access control privileges are left to the discretion of individual users. You can just try to understand that the difference of the particular mechanism, where you have all the objects under basically own the objects under their control, and then they grant and revoke based on the requirement. They can revoke also. The privileges are basically that are left to the discretion of the individual users separately. So it is discretionary mechanism. Mandatory means here the restricting the access to objects based on the sensitivity of the information, content in the object, along with the formal authorization of the subject to access information of such sensitivity. So here the deciding factor is the sensitivity of the information. So based on that, whether somebody will get the access control means a particular criteria will be set in which has to be mandatorily followed, then the access can be given. So that is a kind of different situation. So formal authorization of subjects can be given only based on the sensitivity if it is crossing that level. Role-based access control, that is what is called RBAC. It is an authorization mechanism in which the access decisions are based on the roles that individual users have as part of an organization. So that is another methodology. Now, if we just think of the challenges, like you see that we have got certain challenges these days. What we are facing are complex and fractured identity landscape. Many were under that head. What we have is basically, the many systems of records. We have many applications. Definitely, accordingly, there will be many such large variations for the passwords and overlapping roles. So situation becomes complex. Somebody has to organize that, manage it. So IAM has to control all these situations, has to take care of all these issues. Make life easier for faculty, staff, and the students. If you talk about an environment where university kind of situation, the similar can be having any government organizations, official environment, the similar structure can also be there. Only thing, the roles and responsibility and the issues, the sensitivities will be, level of sensitivities will be different. Here also, you see that the issues would be to enable the access to the resources, enforce the privacy and the security, you have to enforce it, and create a sense of unified university in terms of university level, and in terms of organization, you have to definitely go for a single system. Like if it is an organization, maybe a corporate structure, then you have to have an unified organizational structure. The solutions could be consolidated directories. As we have just talked about, the directories are there in the first picture. What we have shown there, directories are playing some important role, and integrated and automated provisioning part we have discussed. There the methodology, the solution could requires is the automated processing and integrated system. Multiple managed domain controller. Yes, I have shown you some domain controllers. So you may have to have a situation where you have to manage multiple such domain controllers at a time. Separation of authentication and authorization. These two things, like authentication and authorization, are two separate aspects, as I have already explained. So these two has to be separated out. We should not mix it. Role-based access control is one of the better choice here. That is what, out of the three access control mechanism what we have discussed, this has got certain edge or priority can be given to this. Virtual organizations, you have to see that a kind of scenario. The facilities for this virtual organization has to be actually taken care of. Distributed and delegated administration. Yes, that's very important. In these days, you know that management works in that fashion only. You have to delegate the power, and then the administration also at different levels are their power will also be delegated and distributed. Initial and reduced single sign-on. Initial reduced single sign-on, as what we said, that single sign-on already I have mentioned about. That part possibly may help in handling many parallel systems. So single sign-on has got definitely certain important edge here, but with the caution that we have to be very much careful about using the credentials through this using single sign-on methodology. Now, certain challenges of identity management. So you see that in terms of challenges, like first comes the identity theft. Here, major challenge to e-commerce or the internet is authentication. So on the internet, we do not have, we do not have a sure path, or we do not know who and what we are really connecting to. That's what is the issue. So we have to very much careful to authorize and authenticate both this identity of the person with whom we are going to be connected. Many information systems employ username and password for authentication purposes. Yes, that is there. Increasing identity theft incidents such as phishing have prompted institutions to use more advanced authentication mechanism to identify their customers. Phishing techniques possibly, in definitely in information security, it's a very and cybersecurity domain. This is a very common terminology, and people are aware of that. The kind of problem it creates when you have some kind of, say, for example, phishing emails and all that. There are issues where people has to be very much careful. There are solutions for that as well. We may have to adapt that solution inbuilt into our softwares when we are going for that kind of interactions. The internet banking system of banks in India requires two-factor authentication for login. Bank customers need a one-time password generated from a security token given to them by the bank, in addition to their standard username password information. That's an additional check for identity to prevent the identity theft. Now, as we said, that identity management technique, what exactly we are emphasizing is the IAM process has to be adopted. And what is the benefit of it? It is the benefits are of manifold. Like say, it advances in identity management technology, which helps to enhance the overall identity protection instead of simply relying on the traditional password-based technology. Or two-factor authentication using biometric technology has grown as the price for biometric hardware and software has been dropped. We'll detail about that biometric hardware and software details and some of the things, the effectiveness and the utility of that part in the second half. So some common characteristics that can be used for biometric identification, which possibly includes your fingerprint, hand geometry, retina scan, iris scan, face recognition, voice analysis, and so on and so forth. The benefits, like say one example has been given over here, the identity management and public domain also requires stronger authentication. One just earlier example has been given. So bank has really got advantage in, and they are getting more, they have used the smart card IDs. So that has been utilized since long, 2003, Hong Kong government, they have, it's the reference. There are many now. I'm just not going into the details of such examples. Almost all the banks are now having this kind of management system. Another example would be in the US initiative for electronic passport. Yes, that in India also electronic passports are in place now, which could provide automatic identity verification and greater border protection and security. Definitely, biometric information such as face recognition, fingerprint, ID scan also can be stored in the electronic passport. Yes. Now, so far as the ID means the identity information, that the detection for identity, what we call as ID of each an individual to distinguish from the others. So there are different kinds of ID systems. So existing systems, it's a kind of EID design. What are the driving forces that possibly we need to know? Say you see that obviously the important factor is your cost. True. So elimination of unnecessary features, that is e-voting, tax on web, citizenship already available in e-passport infrastructure. So that also can be eliminated. It is whenever you have to go for cost effectiveness. The major activity, what we say in terms of security and the privacy. You see that for security, you see that the strong authentication through encryption methodology, for example, encryption and biometric techniques, you can have security features inbuilt into the EID system. You have to have maintain the privacy, and there you see that here the unlinkability is important. You just cannot link with anybody else until and unless you are properly authorized to do that via certain sector specific PIN or Data Protection Act and all that. Based on that only, you may have to ensure the privacy of the users. Efficiency, obviously, you know that it depends on the card activation process, card reader and software availability, and the cost. All these goes into one bunch that they decides the efficiency of the EID system. And definitely it is very much useful for the e-government environment and the mobile society these days. So here you have that e-gate card, online banking, exit, re-entry, and all that stuff, which is basically are certain process mechanisms that are being practiced in government environment these days as well. So in terms of mobile society, you see that both business, education, health service, everything nowadays in terms of through the use of mobile, you have this facility now. So these are basically, the driving forces, which definitely has got certain convenience as a whole, which basically leaves you with the system transparency of for the short handling and all. So this is a kind of scenario where you may have that EID designing where all these factors one has to consider while going for a kind of EID system. Now, certain benefits are like say in terms of biometric authentication is limitations and drawbacks are also there. Its system may not be always 100% reliable, but sometimes legitimate users also find that they need to try more than once. Yes, sometimes your fingerprint may not be immediately recognized properly, but nevertheless you may have to see that as much as the cases sometimes you due to certain factors. We'll see what are the factors that actually issues related to these biometric systems that we'll talk about. But even then, this may raise certain concerns about the personal privacy. But you see that that is not that much of derogating. Rather, the benefit out of this kind of biometric security is much higher. So the claims are that assertions may be made by the user of identity is like say you should have an account name, that is identifier, personal information where you know that name, address, and birthday kind of thing, personal information. Maybe some group membership. Example has been given for an university student. Maybe which group, say age group and all that kind of thing you can have. Multiple types like directly validated password is playing key role here. User asserted, that is self-signed things, and then third-party validation, that is trusted public key. So that is kind of SSL security, secure software layer encryption is helping in that kind of validation. Now you just see that how basically this service provider, identity provider, and the identity agent, they are linked together. So first is this like service provider, what the claims are. So identity agent has to understand this basically going for the service provider to connect, and then authenticate. First is what claims, then authenticate. So go to the identity provider. Then identity provider will claim the issues through the identity agent, and then finally they will service provider will basically connect for this presenting the claims. So this is what finally you go for kind of scenario. Direct interactions sometimes may be provided, that is optional scenario where identity provider and service provider can directly talk to each other. But most of the cases you see you have certain identity agent in it. Now in a nutshell, if we talk about the benefits of the IAM, we have first one is cost effectiveness by saving money, improve operational efficiency, reducing the time to deliver applications and this kind of services, enhance the security, enhance the regulatory compliance, and then more power to audit. Basically, that as I said, that auditing is very important part of it. Each and every system what you are putting in force into your existing system that need to be audited regularly. So you are by incorporating this kind of IAM system, you are providing more power to the audit to your organizations. So overall, this kind of the benefits could be like in security, a well implemented identity management system brings at least two business benefits. One is cost reduction, improve service level, and enterprise-wise identity management systems here, the organization does not need to dedicate human resources for handling the user ID related issues for each individual applicants, and resulting in a fewer people are needed for ID administration activities, which could in turn reduce the IT operation costs. That is definitely you can understand that the implications of. In addition, fewer calls to the help desk regarding user ID problems would contribute to more cost saving. Yes, definitely. A common user complaint in the enterprise environment is the slow response when dealing with the user ID resets or other ID management functions. With the help of an automatic identity management system, response time for requests relating to the user ID would be improved. Means you can respond very quickly or effectively, resulting in an improvement to the IT service level and better user of the ID management. Now, if we just summarize, this is the first part I am concluding here is the identity and identity management, identity and access management system. So the summary is like this: individual accountability should also be established to hold such employee responsible for his or her account within information system. Accountability can be accomplished by identifying and authenticating this kind of system with an user ID. The user ID should uniquely identify a single individual such that the subsequent tracing of the user's activities on the system is possible should an incident occur or if a violation of the IT security policy is detected. Shared or group user IDs should be prohibited unless it is unavoidable due to specific business needs. Now, this is what actually I thought that we should talk about in terms of identity and access management part. Then we'll go a little bit more detail into the biometric security. So before that, I'll just see that like this kind of things possibly will help you, like what exactly you can understand by this kind of scenario, where you are actually getting this identity and access management essentially helps you in improving your existing operational activities and maintaining the security aspects as well and improving the IT services. That is what is our target. For any organization, most of the organization nowadays is running digitally and they need to have some security systems inbuilt, but their identity management system has got a very important role to play, and that emphasizing this kind of different aspects of identity management and at different layers, what exactly we need to do, what kind of security aspects has to be kept inbuilt while you are processing such system in when you are encompassing your requirement. And additionally, you are going ahead with your current activity, not disturbing your existing people's how they are just performing their own thing, rather to expedite their process of getting things done in a very quick manner. So these are overall, the aspects of identity management system. So now I think we can possibly we can go for the other part. Jagdish, can I go to the next part?
Yes, sir. We will continue, sir. Lastly, we will take the questions, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
In the meantime, I also request all the August audience, please post your questions in the chat area so that we will address all the questions by end of the session. Thank you.
Yeah. So now if we talk about the biometric security, certain things a little bit more detail, we will talk on this. Yes. Biometrics, what is that? Bio, yeah, that is what is life. Metric, that is the measurement. So it is the measurement of life. Biometrics can be sorted into two classes. One is physiological, like say example is your face, fingerprint, hand geometry, IDs, etc. Another is behavioral, that is signature, voice, gait, body odor, etc. We'll talk in detail about both the aspects. First is physiological biometry and then behavioral biometry. So This is obviously the introductory part of it. Why do you require this kind of biometric systems? What are the need of it? Obviously, this as the situations are becoming day by day critical, and each and every individual has to be properly identified. In the first part, we have talked about the identity management system, and one important aspects of having identification, getting identified a particular person is through biometric. So you need to have a good, surveillance system. So the question of surveillance systems these days are basically under scanner. Certain things, what queries that normally comes into our mind are: how effective is the surveillance system to prevent the unlawful activities? Means you have an organization, and you are having certain surveillance system already enforced in your organization. Physical surveillance are there, maybe through CCTV and all that stuff. But there are beyond this, the requirement will be there. We need to analyze whether it is effective or not. Does the system guarantee the required level of security? That is a question one has to understand, one has to reply. Does the system distinguish an unauthorized user from an imposter reliably? Is the system user friendly? So based on these answer to these queries, we will be having different levels of biometric systems, the solutions for that. So in early days, identity management, as we said, that was the cryptography method requiring users to remember a secret text, that is the password, to keep something with them, like say card, smart card, as we have already talked about, or combination of both of them. Here you have the issues for access control, computer login, email checking, making bank transactions, border control, welfare disbursement, and so on and so forth. But users challenge the efficacy of such systems. Each and every system, has got certain kind of, soft loopholes, you can say, through which the people can invade. Here comes your biometric playing some important role. Although what we are saying that the biometric is not the perfect solution, but it offers certain advantages over this kind of knowledge, and it possesses based on the approaches in certain ways. For example, there is no need to remember anything. You don't need to remember your password and all that stuff if you are going for this kind of biometric system. Biometric attributes cannot be lost, transferred, or stolen. It can offer the better security due to the fact that these attributes are very difficult to forge and require the presence of genuine user while granting access to a particular resource. So, better security. Now, let us start defining what is that. What is the biometric? A biometric is a physiological or behavioral characteristic of a human being that can distinguish one person from another, and that theoretically can be used for identification or verification of identity. So, what we are saying, a biometric is a physiological or behavioral characteristic of a human being that can distinguish one person from another, and that theoretically can be used for identification or verification of identity. We'll talk a little bit more detail on identification and verification both as well. Yes, this is just a basic biometric authentication system, kind of very popular biometric based authentication system is fingerprint, has been shown over here. Anyway, we'll see much more in detail. Just a glimpse, just to attract you, I have just inserted this picture for your understanding, where you have some capturing device, you have some processing to be done through some feature extraction techniques, you have some comparison done with the existing data, of a person or referral, and then finally comparing these, you will get some results. And obviously, this this fingerprint database is created through enrollment and verification, and it's done. Liveness testing, yes. See, uh, these are certain parameters what we are talking about. Tamper resistant, secure communication, security threshold level, and fallback mode. These are certain parameters we when we are actually going for any biometric system based solution. These are the issues we need to take care of. These are the essential parameters. First is liveness testing, whether it is still active or not. Tamper resistant, whether somebody can tamper it or not. How far it is tamper proof. Communication. Means from your device, the data has to be stored into a database, and then while actual time of authentication, how the communication is being done properly, whether it is secured or not. Security threshold level. Well, what is that basically? That essentially gives you the accuracy of your system. Fallback node, like if anything is there, something gone wrong, then what is the mechanism of going beyond to come across that? Now, if you say that biometric as an authentication, it depends on what you have and what you know. So these are the three essential things authentication depends on. Now, issue is that why we should talk about this biometric? Because it identifies thefts. Basically, identity thefts are being addressed here. Something you know can be stolen, predicted, or hacked. Reliability on manual verifications is a question. So here the solution for biometric will help. Now, obviously, there are different kinds of categories as already I have mentioned, so I can just pass it on. Authentication process. In the first the picture where I have shown you a fingerprint based biometric solution. There I have given you the detail about the authentication process of biometric authentication. That acquisition is the first part. There is the data acquisition part. Creation of master characteristics, storage of master characteristics, then acquisition. Multiple such acquisitions are there. Means in the real time, and then compare. Take final decision. These are the step-by-step process. First part is your creating the database part, and then comparison and decision. Now, identifiers are very common. Identifiers are fingerprint recognition, face recognition, speaker recognition, IDs, hand geometry, signature verification. We'll talk a little bit more detail also on this. There are others like say DNA, retina, thermogram, gait analysis, keystroke, ear recognition, skin reflection, some sort of lip motion. That is also kind of identifiers. You can see all these are very important. And body order is also kind of identifiers. You see, obviously each and every one has got its own intricacies and its own implications in implementation, as well as accuracy level and other cost factors are also there. So we'll just compare more. There are certain more also has been talked about: brain pattern, sweat pores, fingernail beds, hand grip, brainwave pattern, footprint and foot dynamics. These all can come into play as a biometric. In early stages, these were some kind of things was there. That is very important. DNA is one of the kind of solution. DNA analysis, what you say, retina recognition, then thermograms. We'll see that what is thermograms here. Then gait analysis, keystroke, ear recognition. We have some skin reflection, lip motion, and body. What kind of fraudulent scenarios are there while we are talking of biometric security? Safety deposit boxes and vaults, transactions like say ATM withdrawal, access to the computer and the email. These days very common to everybody. Credit card purchase, yes. purchase of house, car, clothes, or jewelry, whatever you say. So kind of scenario where fraudulence can happen. Getting official documents like birth certificate or passports, there are also some issues are coming up. Fake passports and all that. Obtaining court papers, yes. Driving license, getting into confidential workplace, some sort of highly secured zone, some secured R&D lab, kind of thing. Writing defense labs and all that, writing checks and all, that may be the scenario where fraudulence can happen. Yes, the metrics of biometrics. We have to just a little bit more detailing. We have to go for. What is that? Basically, first point is failure to enroll. What we call is FTE. FTA, failure to accept. FAR, false acceptance rate. FRR, false reject rate. EER, effective error rate. True positive, TP. False positive, FP. True negative, TN. And false negative. So you see, all these basically, are the metrics of any biometric system. So while giving a solution to a particular problem or application area, we need to have certain kind of this kind of issues, metrics to take care of. First one is your this kind of enrollment process, as we said, and obviously kind of acceptance by the user, and whether it is actually really accepted by the user, easy to handle or not, that is important. And there while having some sort of biometric systems is accepted or not, means based on the performance features, there the next parts come are the FAR, FRR, EER. These are the main issues which are being actually calculated based on the parameters called is true positive, false positive, true negative, and false negative. As I said that in that verification and identification in the defining, while we were defining the biometrics, we have talked about this particular aspect, verification and identification. The first part, verification, essentially is the one-to-one matching. You see, it occurs when a user claims who he or she is, and the system accepts or declines his or her. That is one-to-one matching, which is basically relatively easier, lower time complexity and computational cost. Obviously, you can understand that one-to-one matching is requires less computational load and easy to implement. One-to-many matching, that is important. It occurs when the system establishes a subject identity or fails to do it. Either it can establish or fails without any prior claim. It's out of many. When I say one to many, see you have a particular thing you are searching. It searches occurs when system establishes a particular subject identity or fails to do it. It can establish or fail to do it without any prior claim. Means you do not have any previous information for it. So it gives the best possible match and confidence score. That is how the things are being done. In the case of one-to-many matching, you are providing some kind of best possible match, kind of confidence that it can be a 90% match, 95% match, or 98% match, kind of thing. And depending on your application and importance of the application, the threshold of that matching has to be set. It is relatively complex, definitely. Higher time complexity. So this is what basically you see, that verification, verifying somebody and identifying somebody out of many. So basically these are the two issues one has to deal with. Now we'll go a little bit more detail about the many important biometric traits. And first of all, like as we have categorized into two domains, first is physical biometric, and then we will talk about behavioral biometric. In terms of physical biometric, first and foremost, you see have the fingerprint. And you have certain things like, these are the enlarged vision, the image of a particular fingerprint part taken from the, maybe it's a thumb. So the figures are like this. Variations would be like that. People are having different kinds of fingers categorized. One is called arc, then you have some loop type, then you have whorl type. So here, this particular part is the core part, and this outside part of this is called the delta. Here also you have, this is the core for the loop on, this is the core part, and this outside part is the delta. This one for whorl, it is the core, and the rest is. So you have different parameters here, you see, for this particular categorization for fingerprint, and you have some island, some delta, some core, and all that stuff. So these are taken as a feature for fingerprint analysis. So what I say, an extremely useful biometric technology, since fingerprints have long been recognized as a primary and accurate identification method. Very commonly used, many places we have seen. But current scenario, many organizations have stopped using fingerprint because of this COVID issue. But anyway, this will definitely be reinstated afterwards. Because this is very popular and accuracy is also good and easy to handle and low cost solution. Acquisition devices like ink and paper is the oldest way. Inkless methods senses the ridges on the fingerprints. Light scan fingerprint scanners are there. We have some optical methods, what you call FTIM. And then you have the CMOS capacitance, thermal sensing, and ultrasound sensors. Different kinds of sensors for fingerprint are shown over here. Yeah, this is already I have talked about. The techniques includes optical, capacitive, thermal, and ultrasonic, and these crossover core bifurcation, regending, island, delta, and core has already been discussed. The minus here we have used the finger images, has been told about, and from there we take this information. So what is called minish, and then it uses basically the regendings and bifurcations on this finger to plot points. So this is what we are talking about, and those need to be plotted properly. The number and locations of this one is vary finger to finger in any particular person and from person to person for any particular finger. The applications are authentication, what we said as one-to-one, the person flavor identification, where password, PIN, and all this stuff are being utilized. Live scan, it is showing that live scan, then templates are there, different templates have been created, and you have the other part where you have a kind of identification or one-to-many. It identifies a person from the entire enrolled population. So enrollment procedure is very crucial here. This is the approach. Basically, you see the capture here. They are the process they are showing. Capturing the scan left index finger and then thin image to a single pixel. This is the image processing part of it. And extraction of the picture. From there, you have the comparison part. You have the sample minutiae graph, and you see that this is identify that particular manus, and this is the graph for that correspondingly, and then you have a kind of bifurcations, ending, all that stuff. So based on that, you have the kind of acceptable score or not, so that is certain with the comparison between the reference one and the sample one. So finally, you can verify it whether access will be denied or access will be granted. So this is the particular typical approach. But this has certain disadvantages. You see, the issues are here, like the racial issues are there. It can create certain problem for that while taking this kind of fingerprints. Dirt, green and wounds. Yes, if you have some kind of cut and all that in your finger, then there will be a problem in identification. placement of finger, how actually you are placing. So proper when you are giving the data, then in which fashion you have enrolled it, and while you are actually authenticating yourself, if both the things has to be similar, then only it will be able to recognize. Otherwise, if you do not give proper pressure on the device or the properly touched or touching the actual zone of your finger, it will not be able to recognize properly. Too big a database to process. Yes, database is large here. True. It can be spoofed. Some sort of liveliness is important over here. Now comes here another very important biometric called face recognition. Yes, that is very much useful these days. In fact, we have got in CDAC, we have solutions developed based on face recognition system, and by identification is being done in many places. Electoral processes, it has been introduced. User faces camera, neutral expressions required. These are the parameters, the key points while taking these issues as an input. Apt lighting and position. Yes, while collecting data and while verifying the lighting in the environment, the face has to be properly seen. The imaging can be done properly. For that, illumination is very crucial, and the position of the face. Both. I'll show you the interesting part of it. Algorithms for processing are very crucial. Different types of algorithms are there, but we have to see the best optimized algorithm which is utilized, and obviously it is a problem here. Decision, yes, there are decisions need to be taken finally based on this. You see, this is the thing. It uses, yeah, we'll go for face recognition elaborations. I'm coming. It uses an image or series of images either from a camera or photograph to recognize a person. You see, these are the points where it has been marked up properly, and somebody has to recognize based on these points. These are basically, the fiducial points. What we do. Principle is analysis of the unique shape, pattern, and positioning of the facial feature. These facial features, as the facial fiducial points, are very crucial. And there are techniques. One is called Gabor filtering that is being used. Source of data can be like this: single image, video sequence, 3D image, near infrared. These all may be there. Models, weak models for the human face, that the model shape in terms of facial texture. Texture, that is a little bit issues. Face appearance, yes, what we call the eigen faces. Then face geometry, feature based method. That is another approach what we are currently utilizing. One example of our micros, true face engine. One example has been given, and one-to-one by Biometric Access Corporation, they have also shown some applications. Yes, basically this is what is the problem, in terms of this. What I was just telling that time, that enrollment is a very crucial process. So your expression, you see the kind of, this is just a writer mode I have given this, but you can understand the importance of enrollment of data in terms of face recognition. So while you are doing something like your proper facial expression, please, it has to be neutral. You cannot have a kind of typical facial expression as I've shown in the previous slide. So the issues would be identification across expression. That is very difficult. FRR and FAR can fluctuate. It can be spoofed sometimes. Tougher usability, yeah, system. This it's not that very easy to handle each and every time because some restrictions are there. High environmental impact. Yes, outside environment, illumination, and all that stuff is very crucial. So that these are the issues basically one has to deal with while going for face recognition system. But in spite of that, definitely face recognition is taking edge over many other biometric systems these days because of its increasing accuracy and usability. Iris recognition, analysis of the iris of the eye, which is the colored ring of the tissue that surrounds the pupil of the eye. Based on the visible features, that is rings, furrows, and freckles and corona features and their location are used to form the iris codes, which is digital template. You can see that. Widely regarded as the most safe, accurate biometric technology and capable of performing one-to-many matches and at extraordinary high speed without sacrificing the accuracy. Iris scanner, unique pattern of iris it scans. Iris is colored, and visible from far. It can be seen from a little distance also. No touch required. Overcomes the retinal scanner issues. Contact lenses possibly an issue if you have a contact lens. Yes. This iris image, one example, has been shown over here. Applications they have shown in Heathrow Airport. Iris-based identification is there. It's a highly mature technology with a proven track record in a number of application areas, used very effectively all over the world. That is what we have seen. But other methodologies are like say hand geometry. It's commonly available in different forms, like full hand geometry or taking some part of it. So you have the readers only images of the two fingers of the hand. That is also possible. Hand recognition technology is currently one of the most applied biometric discipline worldwide. But a little bit issue is there. Large scanners are required. A little bit costly and not that portable. You can think. This is what is the geometrical these calculations, how things has been done. I'm not going to that mathematical derivations of it, but yeah, you have this. We have this kind of things inbuilt. Now we are working on this kind of development. Application, yeah, Ben Gurion Airport, they are using hand geometry. Some example I've just shown over here. Here also in past they are using hand geometry based system for identification. Yeah. Now I'll just highlight on some kind of thermograms. Yeah. You see that thermograms is basically based on the infrared camera to detect the heat pattern of the part of the body, which are normally which is basically different for different human being. Maybe say kind of scenario where you can see this. Normally it is expensive, obviously, and that is an issue because thermal sensors are a little costly. Ear recognition. This is just an example, like what are the portions of the ear. Ear geometry recognition uses the shape of the ear to perform identification. Suggestions have been made that the shapes and characteristics of the human ear are widely different. Yes, and infrared image can be used to eliminate the hair also. Like within the ear, people are having hairs, so that also can be eliminated using infrared image. Might be recognized at a distance. And this is how the geometrically it has to be done. This is the anatomy part of it. Yeah. And we have the locations of the anthropomorphic measurements used here for a particular system. Then comes your retina. Yeah. Retina recognition. The pattern of blood vessels that emanate from the optic nerve and disperse throughout the retina depends on individual and never changes. No two retinas are the same, even in identical twins. That is very, very important. So it is very accurate. But issues are there. It can a little bit of health hazards are certain issues. There are certain commercial products also available. Retina scanning, scans the retina into the database. User looks straight into retinal reader. Scan using low intensity light, very efficient. Cannot be spoofed. That is very important. Certain negative side of it, user has to look directly. FTE ratio is high in this biometric. Acceptability is a concern, particular because of health hygiene, and the light exposure. Well, now if you say something about the DNA, the identifier, that DNA obviously has been called the ultimate identifier, but it is not restricted use. DNA analysis is not generally publicly utilized. For specific purposes only they can be used these days till now. Identity information from every cell in the body in the digital form, not yet fully automated, not fast and expensive. And theoretical limitations are there. Identical twins have the same DNA. Privacy issues, DNA contains information about race, paternity, and medical conditions for certain diseases. There are certain comparisons we can see that DNA conventional biometric we can compare requires an actual physical sample, uses conventional biometric uses an impression, image, or recording. DNA is not done in real time. Not all stages of comparisons are automated. Conventionally, biometrics are done in real time, light outs, automated process. A lot of process has been done. DNA does a comparison of actual sample here. Otherwise, the conventional biometric uses templates or feature extraction. Now comes the other part of it, that is the behavioral biometric. One is gait, the movement, like human being, the gait movement, the final objective to recognize persons using standard camera in any condition. That's what the target. It's a low-cost camera can also have this kind of gait analysis system. It's a particularly studied, it may be enabled identifiable at a distance. That's slightly a little more far off, it can be identified. This Georgia Institute of Technology, there we have taken from this example. So that is an example what we have shown. Keystroke dynamics. Yes, the rhythms of with which these basically, the keyboard, what we are talking about. The rhythms with which one types at a keyboard are sufficiently distinctive to form the basis of biometric technology known as keystroke dynamics. It is totally software based, requiring no sensor, more sophisticated than a home computer. True. The sequence and the way you are actually typing. So how you are putting your strokes, that is also a kind of biometry. Voice recognition. Voice recognition is not the same as speech. Definitely, it is it's speaker recognition. You can say considered both physiological and behavioral things, popular and low cost, but less accurate. And sometimes it is lengthy enrollment process. Yeah, that is very time taking, and there is some issue of repeatability. You can say there are certain applications where voice recognition can be done. Amazon Echo and all that stuff. These days it is improved to that level. People are using it very widely. Fixed text, text dependent, text independent, conversational, different types of applications are possible. Features, certain advantages, less requirement for the users, such that they do not have to separate process for verification. Very little hardware is required and ideally suited for this kind of system for remote identification. Zero client side cost, no special reader needs to be installed. Disadvantage, acoustic feature, misspoken or misread phrases, human voice tremendous variability due to cold, aging, and simple tiredness. The voice can be varied. Can be captured by a third party. It can be done and spoofed. That is the problem. Body order, yes, that I have mentioned. This is a Prometheus. This is an example where body order can be placed for an electronic nose. In fact, in CDAC Kolkata, we have got a system called electronic nose developed for many such applications. It's absolutely clear that the people with differing immunity gene produce different body orders. Electronic and artificial noses are utilized, and where the kind of odorant and chemical vapor sensors array has been done using some artificial neural network, you can identify that order. But yes, still a long way to go. Skin reflection. This has some sort of example is there for absorption of the spectrum in the depends on the individual. In a range of wavelength over 6 millimeter patch, several LEDs send light into the skin and photodiodes read the scattered light, which is analyzed to perform the authentication. You see the lip motion is another type. How lips means movement, lip movement, and this thing. See the different stages. It will create a different geometrical information. And based on that, you can have compare the characteristic lip motions of people while they speak. It has identification associated with speaker recognition. Combination of these two, speaker recognition and lip motion together can give a better result. Different imaging conditions like infrared, high security, and cost factor. image for lip motion. Near infrared, this is normally used for active sensing. Yeah. Then comes your signature verification. It's basically measures the, it's a dynamic one. There are certain things, what you call dynamic measures with speed, velocity, and pressure. We'll talk about the thing is the online one. Other one is the capture images, that is static one. A high user acceptance is very popular that way also. Principle is the movement of the pen during the signing process rather than the static image of the signature. This is what is online signature verification. Many aspects of the signature in motion can be studied, such as pen pressure and sound of the pen makes, and angle of holding the pen, and how you are moving, with what rate you are moving, and all that stuff. What pressure you are writing, those things are the key parameters. So one is static or offline, the conventional, and dynamic or online is electronically instrumented units. Issues are age, illness, and emotions. Signature varies. So you need to take after some time, you may have to take once again the sample. Because high quality hardware, yes, hardware is very crucial. Proper data acquisition is important here. High FRR as signature are very hard. That's very important. Now I'll just on the verge of completion of the today's discussion. But here I would like to give you just an example of a case study, as we have mentioned that we have done some work on this also. That's the online signature verification system, which is a case study on this particular last part of the list is the signature verification part. So I'll just give an example like how it looks like. So this is basically, it's a kind of detection system for identification, biometric identification, where the XY coordinate, pen pressure, pen angle, intonation, acceleration, velocity, signing, duration, all these are extracted from signature. And implementation of this online signature system to multimodal biometric is easier to implement. Multimodal. Say, for example, combination with say face, combination with your fingerprint. This is very very popular. So that gives you multimodal biometric. This has already I have mentioned, so I can just keep this. Yes, ambient noise. You see the noise due to the shadow or poor scanning. This is for the offline signature. I'm just showing this noise part. A similar situation happens with the online part as well. So there are certain staircase effects are available for this kind of signatures. Noise due to thickness of the pen color. That's very important. A similar situation happens while we are writing on digital tablet, the pen pressure. With what pressure you are giving. And while signing and while actually while enrollment and while verifying, the pressure is important. So you will have some practice to be made using that digital pen and pad, and then once you are through, then you can go for actual. We have got a system developed for practicing your signature online, and some 5-10 signatures you can just go for some practice, and then you can easily handle. The issue of handwriting, the kind of handwritten, this is a signature, is one is the hand trembling, due to aging and all that. That is a very important part. Though apparently it looks simple, but handwriting is a complex neuromuscular dynamics depicting the cognitive health of a person. So this is one example what we have seen. Haifa University, Israel, Professor Sarah Rubenbaum, they have gone for a detailed study on this. So this has got some impact. Some of the cases where handwriting with different intensities can be done for Alzheimer's disease, then dysgraphia, where basically deficiency of ability to write properly. Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, and all this stuff, like where the hand movement is very crucial, and that has been recognized. Here it is a problem, in case of signature verification. And aging, you see, over the age, how things have been changed. 1968, 69, 73, and 74, you see the situation. So totally different, Here also, Washington, you see, 17 years, this was his signature. In 25 years old, when he was 25 years old, this was the signature. As president's signature was totally different, So this is signature has got these issues, but you need to re-enroll. There is no problem on that. Aging effect I just shown, how it looks like. So These are the keystrokes variability and increasing times. Forgery, the act of falsely replicating the signature of another one is called forgery. And handwriting, you have got forgery detection, blindfolded or random forgery, semi-skilled and skilled forgery. These are different category of forgeries. And obviously there are systems for both. We have already developed this online one, and offline is also just almost in the verge of finalization. Online one already implemented in some university environment. We have already implemented it in a strong room for exam controller or as an additional security measure, based on which I'll show you the thing. This is the basic flow diagram for that. You have signature data, then you have the pre-processing feature extraction. Signature data composes like training and testing signature, and then you have some classification systems, a very classical model, and you have reference database to compare, and then finally you get the output. This is what you see, that this is a kind of application what I just telling, where it's a smart door control system. So this is strong room is being controlled using this kind of keypad, and then signature, once signature is matched, signature here it is showing signature is verified, then only it will be allowed. Otherwise, we have got an access control unit developed for this. Certain things. So now just I conclude. Identity practice undergoing dramatic changes. Users will expect to engage with us in new ways, bring identity information when they join, gradual migration to claim-based accesses, prepare by continuing to strengthen and consolidate internal identity management, target low-hanging fruit for federation, keep abreast of user-centric identity management. These are certain things. And obviously, we have also gone for this conclusion, already I have mentioned. So we can just stop here and not go for any further details. Probably the time is almost over. So I may have to stop sharing the thing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful and knowledgeable session. It was an excellent session. Throughout the session, like we are getting a lot of comments as well as a lot of questions also. So with your kind permission, shall we take a few questions, sir?
Yeah, actually now, yeah. Okay, fine. Sure. Can you just highlight those queries?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm just going to highlight, sir. How is two-factor authentication done in a smart card?
Yeah, basically in smart card, you have got smart card. We have solutions where fingerprint is also taken care of. So it's a kind of integrated solution. And while in smart card you have this, the basic smart card technology is taking care of that part. Along with that, we have the other biometric factor as a fingerprint. So that is why we are going for this two-factor authentication using smart card solution. Probably you can see in any of our attendance recording system in CDAC and all, we have already implemented throughout. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. And can there be a face recognition as a certification in emails and e-wallets?
I didn't get, actually your voice was cracking.
Yes, sir. Can there be a face recognition as a method of identification in emails and e-wallets?
Not getting clearly. It is here, no?
Yes, in the
It's written in the.
sir.
Can there be? I got it. Can there be face recognition as a method of identification in email, e-wallet, etc.? Face recognition is not used for method of identification in email. Definitely not. That probably was a misunderstanding. Face recognition is used for identifying a person, not identifying an email. But e-wallet, sometimes if you want, you can add in. Like, say, for example, for voter ID card, along with that, the election commission has gone for this face recognition. So face data, once it is stored into your that card, so there it can be utilized properly. And so similar can be the case for e-wallets.
Okay, I think this question is interesting, sir. What if there are twins with identical faces in facial recognition?
What is that?
What if there are twins?
Twins, with identical faces in face
With
recognition. That's a very interesting query. Correct. See that even if they are twins, there will be certain features identifiable based on their facial expression. So that is why what we did, a kind of factor has been introduced. Apart from normal face, we have to go for a kind of expressions. So combination of these two possibly can help. Otherwise, it is definitely a challenge.
all right, and your face recognition can be spoofed.
Hello.
Yeah, please elaborate how
Uh-huh.
facial face recognition can be
Can be
spoofed, sir.
spoofed. Yeah. Basically, you see that face, even if the face, similar faces are there, but face recognition, spoofing is face recognition possible by means of, you have got a database, maybe some criminal database is there. NCRB database is available. No? So there, somebody you want to capture whether it is the same person or not. If the person has got some kind of masking on his face, kind of some additional cuts and wounds has been created, or somebody who was not wearing specs now wearing specs, these kind of things are possible, by which you can make the software full basically. So that is a kind of challenge one has to take care of. But this spec thing has been already resolved. With and without spec we can recognize, but there are many other issues that I have mentioned. Everything cannot be that way overcome. So spoofing is possible.
Yes, sir. I think one more question. I think which is a real time as per news for art. UP man donated the UP cloned the biometric fingerprint using a hot glue gun and hackers bank accounts. Please explain how this can happen. How this can happen or done.
I didn't get your query. It's not properly audible, I'm getting cracked. Is it written over here? That query is written
over there by Fani Kumar. Yeah,
huh?
Fani Kumar, you just go down. You can just
I
go
have
down.
gone down, but it is not available. Just last part I have gone. What is this? What is the query you are saying?
Biometric cloning, sir. Biometric cloning by using a hot glue gun.
Biometric cloning.
Yes, sir.
It is the word biometric, how face recognition can be spoofed that I have seen. I'm not getting exactly this one. We can take it later.
Okay, sir.
What is it? What is that?
I'll just share it in the screen.
Yeah, you can share it.
Yeah. So this is the question I was asking.
Achha. Oh, as per one new paper article, one UP man cloned the biometric fingerprint using hot glue gun and hacked some bank account. Please explain how this can be done. Yes, yes. See, that fingerprint, fingerprint is a very popular choice, true, but it has got a lot of things. I have, in fact, in my discussion also, I have mentioned that spoofing is possibly one problem. It is possible, hot glue gun, you see that, somebody just putting a hot glue gun on his fingers, some typical fingers, and getting some kind of, somebody else's fingerprint that matches with their texture. So that once you have seen that, once the texture matching is possible, then only you can spoof it. And you can just make somebody else fool. So that creating that kind of texture as a kind of cover and putting on your finger, that can help in getting this kind of security done. So fingerprint is not always 100% full. but it is popular. Most of the cases as a kind of popular utility, it can be utilized. But this is a specific case what people are doing it, and in that case, you need to go for maybe some many finger questions, like say 10 finger authentication. So that cross verification in that case will be possible. In that case, it will be difficult to prove.
Thank you, sir. One last question we will take, sir. Which good institution to take cyber forensics training for government employees?
Yeah, definitely. I will suggest, first of all, you have this opportunity to go for CDAC is one of the best institution for cyber forensic training. CDAC as a whole, and CDAC Hyderabad is doing very well in this field in terms of training. And partly in cyber forensic training, we are also there. CDAC Kolkata is one of the organization where we do this. And in fact, in northeastern part of the world, country, we are doing it for all the LES, law enforcement agencies. So in India, under ISA program, this kind of activity is widely spread, and a lot of institutes are these days coming up. NELIT is also there. They are also doing this kind of training very good. In fact, jointly currently we are working on with NELIT Kohima also. So they also can give you very good, so this kind of cybersecurity training, cyber forensics and cybersecurity training. I will definitely recommend this as an organization. Not only that I am from this organization, but you can just see throughout, like in the media and all that, social media also you find it out. So this will be useful. Possibly you can go for. There are certain other government organizations are also there available. But anyway, definitely CDAC and NILIT kind of organizations can be.
Can we take final question? One question.
Yes, please. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm just sharing it on our screen.
Okay.
This is the last question, sir.
Okay. How is biometric verification efficient as we are aging? Iris, hand, face, voice is changing as we grow older. Yes, true. Definitely. But the issue is, I'll tell you, iris is not that much problematic, but others are definitely problematic. What I'll say is definitely with age, these are the issues. But with age, what you have to do, you have to re-enroll. There is a system, say in the bank, what do you do? When you grow old, you have to go and give your signature again to get your check passed. So people won't mind giving an enrollment another time. But that should be happening after a considerable amount of time. Whatever we are doing currently, it is not frequently changing. Definitely not. So it is acceptable, I think. One should go for this.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, for enlightening and very knowledgeable session. I think most of the queries also we have cleared, and if there are any queries, we will take it up later part. And
yes.
And once again, we thank you very much, sir, for your time and in difficult times, like you came and you are engaging with all these participants. So once again, we thank you very much, sir, for your knowledgeable and enlightening session.
Thank you all for your patient hearing.